All right, we're working on this 2009 Hyundai Sonata here, and we're going to be replacing the front driver's side wheel bearing on here today. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, so we got our rear tire chalked here. All right, we're going to start by breaking these loose with a 21. Okay, so here's where we positioned our jack and jack stand out of the way. All right, we'll just go ahead and finish removing all the lugs here. Okay, very first thing, we're going to get our cotter pin here. You want to get this as straight as you can. All right, at this point we're going to put the tire back on here. We're only going to put a couple of the lugs on here. Okay, before we get started, I want to take the time to go over all the tools that you should need here. Okay, as far as special tools, you can get these as loaner tools. Slide hammer, hub puller over here. Now, at one time you could also get these at part stores. This is the bearing installation kit. I'm not sure if they still have these or not, but you can get these pretty much anywhere. You can order them. You can get them from part stores, Harbor Freight, a lot of places. But you're going to need one of these. I've got 3 different hammers here you'll possibly need. I've got just a regular 3-foot crowbar, some wire. Got my breaker bar, cheater pipe, snap ring pliers, needle nose, Phillips flat screwdriver. Got a couple of punches, a flat and a pointed punch. Just got my extended handle ratchet. Just got another smaller ratchet, and then sockets, mainly a 32. So we've got a 17, a 14, a 10, and a 12 millimeter, and then a wrench is a 12 millimeter. And also got a 21 on my torque wrench. You're going to need a torque wrench, medium Loctite, and you'll need yourself one of these Dremels. Nothing special. And of course, you're going to need yourself a jack stand, and I've also got a drain pan here. Okay, so we had to lower the vehicle back down to get the weight on the tire. We're going to be using a 32 or 1.25 inches to get the axle nut here. All right, so I've just got a breaker bar with a cheater pipe on it here. Okay, so we just got it lifted back up with the jack stand in place. Go ahead and get our wheel back off again. All right, I've got a 14. We're going to focus on our brake caliper here next. Okay, we're going to take some of these bolts out of the brackets for the brake line so we can get this kind of up out of the way. We'll just start with the 10 millimeter holding the ABS. All right, we're going to get these two right up here with a 12. All right, we got one more here, 12 millimeter on the back side. All right, we're just gonna strap it up here with some wire. All right, so we got a couple of 17s holding the bracket on here. And the other one's gonna be right in here. Come up with this. We're just gonna kind of feel for it here. Can't really give you a view from this angle. All right, so let's go ahead and finish getting these out. All right, next thing I'm going to focus on these Phillips. Now you want to get yourself one of these and you want to take a hammer and you're going to smack these really good. And you're going to have to do that until basically you'll be able to get a screwdriver on there, and you should be able to turn it easier. You're just kind of knocking it in, taking the tension off. And usually I can get 90% of them this way. So depending on how badly seized yours are, you may be able to get it with a rubber mallet, or you may have to get something a little bigger. But you don't want to tear your rotors up. These here are pretty bad shape anyway. And you can see on this one, it's easily moving, so it's not going to be stuck. Usually this is your biggest battle here, so if you spray it down with WD-40, you can usually get these broke loose a lot of the times. We're going to focus on this up here. We've got another one of these clips. Oh, we've got another 17 here. Okay, what I've done is I found another nut to put on here. This is the original. I've got another one that fits it, and I've run it just down flush to the end here, so we're not damaging the original. And you can see the threads are fine. So you definitely want to get a hand on this when you're going to come down and smack you. We're going to go ahead at this point and just push the CV back out. Just kind of pushing it with my thumb, pulling it out there. Okay, so it's not going to afford me enough room to easily pop the CV axle out, so I'm going to go ahead and remove the tie rod here. And again, we're going to be using a 17. And I'm going to use this spare nut that I have, so I'm not running the risk of damaging the original. All right, I'm going to spin this here, and you can listen to it. So just another way to confirm that you do have the right side. Okay, I'm actually going to put the CV axle back in here momentarily because I need... Give me a second. All right, we're just going to put that back in there like so. We're going to reconnect the top here. Now, if you're 100% certain you got the right wheel bearing, you could probably skip this extra step that I'm taking here. But I really need that CV axle out to be able to spin that and hear it. Now I just kind of snug that down a little bit. All right, so we're going to go get our hub pulling tool on here. We almost need the CV axle out of the way. I'm going to try to make do with it. Let's go ahead and get some of our lugs. Now they also have a hub puller. It's a little bit deeper than this one. I should have got that one. I just have the smaller one. And you can get, like I said, you can get these tools as loaner tools. And very important to get you some cardboard down here so when this hub comes flying off, it doesn't get banged up. All right, we're going to go ahead and take this knuckle back loose up here. Right, I'm going to come in here with a screwdriver here, flat screwdriver, and start working this clip. This is very tight. I may be taking that CV axle out yet. It's kind of getting in the way. See how I'm kind of walking this thing up and out of here. And once I've kind of got it up with the flat screwdriver, I'm going to hook it with my pick tool here. I'm going to try to pull it on it. Oh, and you need to be very careful, because that could have got me, but it didn't. Definitely put some safety glasses on. So these have a tremendous amount of force on them. And we'll have equally as much fun putting it back in. All right, now we're going to get our tool. We have to push it out through this end right here. Okay, we're going to go ahead and remove this CV axle. It's too much in the way for the, as easy it is to remove. Now I do have a drain pan, because I never know which cars are going to leak fluid, which ones ain't. So worst case, we have to put a little bit of transmission fluid back. All right, so I'm just using a regular crowbar. We've got it loose. Get our crowbar back out here. It's just that using that hooked in. Let me reach up in here. And I do hear some dripping already, but that's all right, because this is in my way. And like I said, we'll just put back whatever we lose. Get over here where you can maybe see it dripping there. All right, we're just going to be careful. Bring this out, this end here. See that little clip? That's what locks it. Let me get you a view here. You can see where it's draining out there. Now, in a pinch, if you have a paint filter, you can filter this fluid. It can be reused. You just want to make sure you filter it if you don't have any clean fluid or new fluid. Now, with that out of the way, we can more easily do what we need to do without the aggravation of having to move that around. Okay, I'm going to show you setting this up here, and then we're going to have to mount this back up there to hold it still. But we've got this piece here. I'm going to set it down here on the machine part. If you set it up on that's going to be kind of crooked, so set it on that. All right, now over on this side, there was this little piece here on that for the wheel bearing, and I did take that out with a screwdriver. Now what I've got here is my number 50. It's basically the biggest one. It's going to go in here, set on this shoulder. Now this is kind of curved a little bit, but this sets in there nice and tight onto that part. Now from here, we're going to get us a washer. Take our big bolt, bring that through, and we'll get on this other side. So then, you notice this end's beveled. That's where the cap sits. Flat end. Set it on this little machined portion here. I'm going to take this, Let's set it right on up with that. And then we're just going to get our end cap here. And once we get this on here, it'll actually stay put. All right, so we make sure that's sitting down where we want it there, nice and flat. Forgot my washer. Okay, without realizing I actually had this bolt around backwards, I flipped this around here because when I mount it up here, I want to be turning this side or this big nut here. It's going to give me more force. All right, so all I've done is slip this back up here, and I'm not going to tighten this down or nothing. I just want it to hold it there. It's not falling. All right, initially, until it gets tight, it may try to turn on me. I'm going to hold this back here with a 32 millimeter. Depending on what kit you got, I don't know what your size will be, but that's what I'm using. And we're also going to be using a 32 on this. And I got my breaker bar on here. And it's going to take a lot to get it moving initially. I'll probably need to get my cheater bar on here. It's trying to turn on me. Let me get my cheater pipe. Now, I kind of just laid this here so this is not moving. It's just laid up against that control arm. So we got the cheater bar on here initially, so we're going to need to use this to get it moving. And it usually doesn't start easing up till you get quite a few turns in with it. Just get you in there, let you see that groove that we got going. You can tell it's moving. Yeah, you can see the gap. All right, well, I've got it moving here now where I no longer need the cheater bar, so we're making some progress. All right, now I'm able to switch to the ratchet. I've actually got it over a 1/2 inch. Here now it's actually easing up. I think we're just about almost through here. All right, so this is what we just removed. And I'm just going to take and wipe this up in here, make sure this is clean. All right, now putting the bearing back in always goes easier than taking it out. You can use some grease. I'm using this assembly lube here is what I usually use. Just want to put that in there. And I've already wiped this out. And this just helps it to go in that much easier. Right, I've got my bearing here and I've had this sitting in the freezer overnight. Just helps it. We'll get it opened up here, do a comparison. Now I'm going with the number side pointed that way. That's the way it was on the one I took out. And we're going to go ahead. Now this particular one is the only one in here that fits it, and you kind of have to put it on the back side, and it's the biggest one without being too big. So it's just that simple. We're going to slip the bolt through here. Now we want to make sure it's centered up nicely on the back. Of course this is going to go on the front. This will slip on here. And we'll make sure this is centered up as best we can get it back here. And just kind of holding this over here. Like I said, it goes in much easier. Okay, now what I'm looking at back here is making sure that this adapter here is centered. And it looks like it's slightly off, so I'm going to loosen it and readjust it. And so with that added assembly lube and, you know, with freezing it makes a big difference. I've done it both ways before, and they go in much easier. Now when you get down here and it gets really hard, don't just assume that you're all the way bottomed out. You're going to have to actually look. You'll know when it's bottomed. It won't budge a bit. Now I have had them be really tight and had to get the breaker bar back out. All right, that feels like it's there. Right, we can take a look right here and see that is as far as it's going to go. Now the other thing I want to look at is make sure that our clip is going to fit in there. So I want to make sure that space in that groove there, and it is. Okay, now we got to go work on our hub. All right, so I'm just using everyday ordinary Dremel here, and we're cutting this little slot. Now the key here is to cut almost through but not cut through, and then we're going to hit it with a chisel, and we'll just basically just crack it in two, and then we'll be able to just easily remove it. Now you want to also get your groove going at like an angle there. And it doesn't take a long time. And I know that this is not the most powerful tool to do this with, but it's definitely the most cautious. So I'm going to just work on this, and then we'll finish splitting it here. Okay, and it goes without saying, you want to be wearing some safety glasses when you're doing this. Now, I'm going to try and see if I can split it here, but I was right here getting close to getting through it, and it just broke all to pieces when I hit this edge here. Just to show you So you want to come up on that shoulder there a little bit too. If you don't get it enough on that, you won't be able to split it. But we don't want to get into this part here if we don't have to. Alright, so I've got my chisel. I'm just going to start giving it some hits here and see if it's going to crack. And if it don't, then we'll go at it some more. Okay, so I dremeled through it a little more. Put a mark right here so I could see if this thing was moving. So once you get through it there a little ways, you can see how it's moved from my mark there. I keep hitting this. It's going to keep turning, so we know we got it split. So we're just going to kind of sort of finish spinning it off of here. And once you get that split, you can usually easily pull it off or spin it off. It'll take a few minutes. But you just don't want to hit your base of your hub there. So you can see I'm just spinning it off. And before I forget, I know someone's going to ask why you didn't just get another hub. And you can do that. However, on the last car that I was doing one of these wheel bearings on, you simply could not find any hubs. The parts stores didn't carry them, and just pretty much couldn't find them anywhere. And the ones I did find were very expensive. It was on a Lincoln LS. So there's going to be a time where you're going to have to learn how to remove these races anyways, and you can save yourself $50 if you can get one of these off. And worst case scenario, if you mess it up, then you can go get one. Now this one's pretty well loose enough. I think I can just push it off here almost. It's just moving pretty good. Almost. All right, now I'm just going to take some Scotch-Brite. I'm just going to clean this up really good. Okay, before we ever even put the spring in there, we're going to use the same one that we used to push the old one out, and we're going to support the back of the bearing here. So that's going to support the back of that. Now, if you skip this step, you run the risk of pushing the bearing out and ruining it. Okay, so we're going to get our hub on here. Now, ideally, I like to freeze this, but I don't have time. Now, I may live to regret it, but I'm going to lube it down good and hope for the best here. Because sometimes they fit back in well, and sometimes they're really, really tight. It just depends. I've had some that go in no problem, and others that won't. So let's see if we got it straight. So we're going to get the breaker bar holding this. Alright, I had to put the breaker bar on this side. Alright, so we're going to see how it's going to go here. It feels to be going in pretty good. It's not too terrible at this point. We're just going to take her down until it stops here. And I don't even have the ratchet extended out here, so it's not too terrible. Alright, so you just want to take it down there till it stops. And you can tell when it stops, that's good. Go ahead and remove this. Alright, now we get the fun job of putting the clip back in. And I'm just going to drop it back down from here so it's easier to get at. And before you get too carried away, you want to give this a spin and make sure it ain't making any racket. It sounds good. Alright, nice and tight too, unlike before. Now, as I said, you want to make sure you got that thing seated in there so you got a groove to put this in. You really need to have yourself a good set of these snap ring pliers. This is not a good set. So it's also a good idea to have some safety glasses on, because these things are under tremendous pressure. So it's not wanting to cooperate with me. I'm going to have to work at it here a minute. Well, I got it partially in there. Said these will hold for a minute and then they let loose. I need a better pair. Okay, I finally got them there. It didn't want to cooperate on camera, but I was kind of holding it here and pushing at the top, and it just snapped right in there. Actually less trouble than I thought it was going to be. All right, we're going to work this CV axle back in place. All right, we got it slipped back in there. Sometimes you can just kind of hammer it like this, and other times you got to hit the end of this with a mallet. And we'll check and make sure it's seated. And you'll know when you snap it in there, you'll hear it snap in place. All right, we're just gonna tighten our axle nut once we get the wheel back on. I'm gonna go 25 on our tie rod here. I'm going to go 43 foot-pounds on this upper ball joint here. And we'll make sure our little screw holes go back where they go. We're going to torque these to 70 foot-pounds. All right, I'm going to torque these caliper bolts to 20 foot-pounds. Well, I got everything crisscrossed, so I had to take all this back loose here and resort it because this goes on the top of this. I just kind of jumped the gun on hooking these up. I should have waited, so I had to take the ABS sensor and this over here back off. So these back here, these both go on at the same time as well. So I'm just going to snug all these up. Okay, at this point we're going to get the tire back on. We're not going to put the wheel cover. We're just going to get a couple of lugs in here and get the weight on the vehicle. All right, we're going to torque this to 150 foot-pounds. Now, if this hole's not lining up with your slots here on your castle nut, just simply take your breaker bar and turn it just a little bit more. Okay, so we got the car lifted back up. We're going to go ahead, get our wheel cover back on, orient this where the valve stem is. I'm going to go ahead and torque these to 90 foot-pounds. Okay, so I didn't have any max life. Usually that's what I use on these Hyundais. So I'm going to have to be reusing this. I'm just running it through a paint filter. And like I said, this transmission fluid needs to be changed. So that's going to have to be done. We're just going to put this. I actually got about 2 quarts out by pulling that CV axle. Not quite, but almost 2 quarts. Pretty easy to refill this. Just pull the dipstick there. Alright, so nothing left to do now but take it for a quick test drive and make sure everything sounded good. Okay, so I took it down the road and it's sounding great. You'll want to check your transmission fluid just to make sure it's where it's supposed to be. Check it with it running. This one here is perfect. Like I said, this is kind of a time-consuming job. You know, I spent at least about 5 hours on this. It is kind of involved and stuff, but it's not too bad and definitely can save yourself some money. So that's going to do it for the video. Please like, share, and subscribe, and thanks for watching.